can I get a copy of the recording? Can I
Yes,
get
you
a
will.
copy of it?
You
Okay.
will. So, welcome. This is Enthinkment Circle, and I'm honored to present Jerry Biberman. We're going to check in a little bit with each other, so I'm going to pause the recording for that part of it. I've known Jerry Biberman most of my life, and we've been good friends. We've started things, we've created problems in the Academy of Management, and then helped a new division get started on management, spirituality, and religion. Grace Ann and I wrote introductions to Jerry's books on spirituality and sometimes a preface and or forward. I remember one year, Jerry, he had to get another forward because the one I wrote was so radical. He's the one that would help the book to sell. But uh, Jerry is a wise man, and he's a mystic, in my opinion. And I always learn things from him, and I'm really excited to see him here today, and got a great opportunity for him. He's, I think, going to critique something I wrote about indigenous views of Maslow's hierarchy, and going to
Yeah.
take me to
Uh,
the ground on it. So, but
uh,
Jerry, it's a pleasure to be here. Grace Ann will be joining us shortly. We just got in the house and put the dogs in the backyard, and man, I had mail like that and packages all over the place. All right. So, Jerry, go ahead and take us through and maybe give us a
okay.
break after a while so we can ask questions if you would.
Well, I don't think I'm going to be going for a half hour. I think it's
Well,
going to, and I hate PowerPoint, but this is an experiment. This PowerPoint was just created about 15 minutes ago by Copilot on on my PowerPoint thing. I've been using Copilot a lot. Basically, Copilot's been telling me how to lead my life for the last few weeks, so it's very nice. Anyway, um, and so I just wonder, how do I go from the one slide to the next? Or just it, oh, okay. How do I go backwards? Well, I'll just keep
left arrow
going.
key at the bottom of your keyboard, left and right arrow key should do it.
Oh, ah, oh, wow. Oh, this is it. Okay, well, just a little bit, little introduction. Uh, as David said, I saw something he wrote where he was trashing Maslow. And then I was just pointing out to David that that's because he doesn't understand Maslow. Uh, It's not that he doesn't understand Maslow. It has to do with this concept of spiral dynamics in human consciousness. And so, depending on what level you are in human consciousness, you could look at Maslow as just being very, self-oriented, and that would be true if you're at a lower level. As you get to higher levels of human consciousness, then you start to see how everything is connected, and then Maslow makes more sense. Is this making any sense to you guys? You all know about, have you all heard of spiral dynamics or something like it? You all know Ken Wilber, and Ken Wilber talked about, well, I'll go into some of this as we go along. So that's the first slide. Now, again, these slides were generated by Copilot, and I hate PowerPoint. So this is my first time using PowerPoint. But as you'll see, unlike most PowerPoints where people feel like they have to read everything, I'm not going to do that. So here we go. So the agenda is we're going to look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, then we're going to compare it to spiral dynamics. And so let's go. How many of you are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy? Yeah, I thought so. If you haven't heard of Maslow's hierarchy, you haven't been alive over the last how many years. Of all the theories of, well, I've said this to David before, but to summarize, every year or every so many years, there's a theory that becomes really popular. And then after maybe 10 years, the theory gets debunked. So, especially in organization behavior, you look at all the theories of motivation, and there's a whole bunch of them. And they've all, after about 10 years, somebody does a meta-analysis, looks at all the theory, and says, well, basically, that theory doesn't mean anything. and this has been true for, I can name a whole bunch of theories, and we go on and on. The only one that survived all this is Maslow's hierarchy, even though most of the research on Maslow's hierarchy doesn't prove the theory. Doesn't have to prove the theory because the theory is so common sense that it just kind of makes sense to people. And here's Maslow's hierarchy. As you can see, you go from the lower up to the higher. And so at the lower level, which is, yeah, I like the symbols they put in there. So you start off with basic needs and then eventually get to the higher order needs. The higher order needs is the self-actualization, which, as David's in your article, said that self-actualization is, well, this is whatever makes me, whatever is good for me. Right, David? I mean, it was basically your thing. So,
I stand guilty as charged.
well, okay. I mean, I will say one thing, and this is true. I mean, if you look at what has happened to us, we're all kind of older here, except for a few. I mean, I'm 77, so I'm probably the oldest one here anyway. But as we,
I'm 78,
what?
dude. So,
All right, so David's
and
older.
and that guy Paul, he's 100. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, look at what happened. I was saying this, I gave a talk last week, and I said, what happened to the six? Those of us who were in the 60s and the peace and love and all this stuff, now we're watching Fox News and everybody's, I mean, just what happened? Well, here's what happened. They, the people with peace and love in the 60s turned into the my generation of the 70s. And it was pretty much what you were saying. I mean, a lot of people went from, you know, what's good for us to what's good for me, and just kept going that way. But that's not everybody, and that's what has to do with what I'll be getting into about the spiral dynamics, depending on what level of consciousness we're at. So I don't have to talk much about Maslow's hierarchy. You all know it, right? So this core assumption is okay, well, I don't want to read all of this. As you move up, you want to be, because I promise not to read this. But I'm seeing it for the first time. So, okay, let's see. Okay. As you move up the hierarchy, according to Maslow, now again, Maslow's coming from the place that as you move up, you're going from, it follows actually the chakras, right? So here you have you go from the lower chakras to the higher chakras. And as you get to the higher chakras, then you're talking about self-actualization in terms of, activating the pineal gland and, really becoming one with, higher, what they're calling now the 5D as opposed to the 3D. So I just heard these terms for a while. But you're getting more in touch with the higher order stuff and you're less involved with yourself and more involved with other people. Now, and here we have you know, clinical practice, safety, belonging, going from that to concern for other people. Now, here's where I wanted to point out where David is wrong. And this has to, not you, David, but whoever wrote that. And you just kind of went down the wrong path. That's all. If we look at spiral dynamics, now spiral dynamics comes from the work of Claire Graves originally, and then it led to um, this book by Beck and Cohen. And what it is and it was popularized by Ken Wilber. So the idea is that that's right. That's exactly right. Say it again. Anyway, the dog is right. Hi, Grayson. How you doing? Anyway, um, the point is that people start off, depending on your level of consciousness, at the lower levels, you're only concerned about your group, your small group. And then as you move up in consciousness, you become more involved with larger groups. So, and there's color coding. So here we go. Let's go back to here. Oops. What did okay. Let me get back to here. So the colors usually they start off with like at the beginning, you're only concerned with your tribe. And then as you move up in consciousness, you go from your tribe to like a larger group. Then you move up to like your country. Like right now, if we look at what's going on here in the United States, so you have like the MAGA people that are only concerned for their one group, whatever that group is. And then as you expand in consciousness, you become more concerned with, let's say, the Europeans, or and then as you get more, so eventually you become concerned with like everything. And when you become concerned with everything, that's when you're moving up to the higher levels. So, does this make any sense? Have you all heard of this stuff before? David, have you heard of this?
I have some of it. I mean, I've got my own approach to spiral dynamics, but the thing I've noticed, Jerry, are you open to questions now or?
Yes,
Oh,
that's my
okay.
whole presentation.
That was it. Okay. Appreciate
I
it.
told you it's not going to be 30 minutes. I just wanted to, let me just see here. Um, okay. My point, okay. Let's see, integrating perspective. Da, da, da. Okay, enough of that. So how do I get out of this? Stop share.
Press the stop share thing on the bottom of your screen. There
All
you go.
right.
You did it.
Yes, thank you. Anyway, my
Congratulations.
point my point is this. It depends on where you are, um, what level of consciousness you're at. Now, there was research done, some of you know Bill Torbert, he did a study several years ago, and he looked at like where were leaders. And the top level would be those leaders who are at that level of consciousness, kind of like higher level of consciousness. And I think when he did his study, he found nobody was at the high level, or maybe one or two people. And so, yes, it's true that most people are not at that higher level of consciousness. So, at lower levels, it is true what David said, that you could interpret this as this is me and it's all about me. My point is, as you move up in consciousness, you become really concerned with everybody. My worry is, and this gets, I guess, to your book that you're talking about, David, is um, what happens is you only can relate to people at your level. Until you get to the top levels of spiral dynamics, it's literally impossible for somebody who's at one level to understand what's going on or to relate to a person at the next level. It just doesn't happen until you get to the top couple levels. So, I mean, I remember a song by um, Phil Oakes called Pleasures of no, Flower Lake. Nobody's buying flowers from the flower lake. And you all know Phil Oakes? Anyway, Phil Oakes was this guy in the sig. Well, you're all too young, that's why. But in the 60s, Phil Oakes was writing all these protest songs, right? And he actually had a falling out with Bob Dylan, but that's another story. But anyway, um, there's one song called No One's Buying Flowers from the Flower Lady. And what the song says in one song, it says, soldiers disillusioned come home from the war. Sarcastic students tell them not to fight no more. So they argue through the night. Black is black, white is white. They both walk away, each thinking that they're right. So, which I thought, wow, that was true. Remember back in the 60s, I mean, there were you were in the were you David? You were in the military, right? Or no? See?
I was a flower child before I was in the military.
Yeah, and I didn't get into the military because my number was 360 something, so I was not drafted.
You didn't
Um,
miss much.
I didn't miss anything, I know. Anyway, but the point is that at the same time this is going on, well, let's look at what's going on now with the MAGA people versus other people. They literally cannot understand what the other person is saying.
Yeah. Can I
I mean,
explain
that's the
that a little
problem.
bit? Because we've
Yes,
got some people on both sides of the party lines here,
yes,
which is a good audience. One of the things we're trying to do is just listen to each other and understand each other's perspectives. So, and get out of the right wrong game. And one of the things I've noticed, just to support your argument, because I'll now try to support it, is with psychological ops, what they call psyops.
Yeah.
becoming so strong that it used to be, like you were saying, in the 60s, we were trying to embrace everybody in nature and our higher levels of consciousness. I think we're starting to happen psychedelically a bit. Uh, then with these, with the use of psyops, it's like the use of AI to kind of control your shopping by feeding you ads to induce your shopping, but also one political party and another political party, each using AI psyops to psychologically filter you into a silo so that
Yeah,
you're reinforced by a tribe. They
you
put
talk,
you into
yeah,
a
the
tribe,
algorithm.
and then it's hate all the other tribes. So love this tribe, love your tribe, hate another tribe, move you into a tribe. And that seems to be this. So that's what my new book is about. But it's
Yeah,
also about how do you get beyond that. And I'm not going to here to promote the book. I just wanted to say that listening, we were talking Monday, the same group that's here, about listening is the priority to healing the divides in the U.S.
just to pick up on that. So
Thank you.
apparently there was this guy who killed this guy killed his daughter because they disagreed over politics, and he killed his daughter. And then apparently he was not found guilty. I guess they felt he felt guilty enough for killing his daughter, but it was all an argument over politics. I
Yeah.
there's this woman that I met here in Vegas, and she's been involved in the spiritual movement for a long time. She hasn't talked to her daughter in years because of politics.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. And I think this group
It's
in
very
particular
sad.
wants to
Yeah,
heal that, Jerry, wants to heal those divides. And
that's what.
the one out of two families has a missing chair at the table. Like one of the relatives, they don't invite to Thanksgiving or Christmas or Valentine's or anything anymore. You know, and how do we deal with the country that's
How do we deal with
like
it?
that? So
Yeah.
anyway, it looks like Olivia has a question. If you're open to questions, Jerry.
Oh, yeah, yeah. My presentation's done, so now I'm ready for discussion. So, Olivia, I can't hear you. I think you're muted.
Oh, okay. I'm using different mic. Anyway, I would just want to add to what David was saying. It's not just that we dislike people, but we're actually made to fear them and fear their approach. That's what I think it's because that really gets into the hierarchy of needs at the base level, right? Is that
Yeah, yeah,
fear. So
yeah.
that's what we're overcoming as well, which is it's hard to do with information because there's just so much information. But I just wanted to add that.
Well,
And
and it's
thank
hard
you.
to know what information. I mean, if who knows what's true and what's not true, and it's very hard to filter. Depending on like David's, depending on the algorithm, you either get from one side or you get the other side. Very few people are trying to find out both sides, if you can even find both sides. There's this guy I meet well, there's one guy I see every week, and they're all kind of older. Older than me. They're both in their 80s. So this one guy is a big, um, he's sending me stuff about how Trump is awful every week. And every week it's like Trump is awful. And I said, look, you're in your 80s. Whatever's happening is not really affecting you. So why are you? So that's one guy. Then there's another guy I meet who says he's independent, but all he watches is Fox News. So this guy sees things from the other side. I have no trouble talking to both of them. I mean, you know, and this is the thing, you need to talk to people regardless of where they're at and try to put yourself in their shoes. Now that's the Native American approach, right? Where you walk in the other person's moccasins or whatever you want to say. But people don't do that. Now, why they don't do that, I think is because, well, I mean, like you said, I wouldn't call it psyops, but it definitely has to do with the algorithms and, information gets filtered to you based on what you see. So I don't
Oh, okay.
say political, so I get it from both sides. So
Well,
some people,
PSYOP is the use of multiple AI approaches to systematically bring people from one tribal
Well,
approach
yes,
to
there you go.
another. So
That's what
they
it
call
is.
it PSYOP for short, but there's a lot of variations in it. So Betty, you have a question, and then Olivia again.
Yeah, thank you. Addressing Jerry's very honest question about, well, what to do. These people are on these different sides and they won't budge. I always look to Henry Savall and Bakhtin to know what to do when people are confronting each other sincerely enough. If they're not sincere, they just want to prevail, then there's no reason to even try to do anything about them. But when people are confronting each other with a desire to get somewhere, the what David said about listening is very, very true. But listening is a skill that most of us don't have. And so they both talk about responsibility, addressivity, etc. When somebody talks, we owe them, absolutely owe them, our full attention and our full recognition in what we say next of what they've said. Now, here's where, Jerry, I'm like you are. Today in America, more than in France, but we're getting there, people are looking for a different agenda. They do have a purpose. There are two societies being debated. In the past, it was whether or not a center left person and a center right person could agree. But basically, they were for what would essentially be everybody get along nicely, listen to the Bible, etc. Today, no, there are two very different outcomes they're looking for, and it infuriates them that the other's outcome be even mentioned. And that's what Trump's problem is. So I just wanted to say, if you do look at what Henry Savall has asked people to do, it addresses the problem of responsibility to listen. And I have a bit of a cold. I don't know if you can hear that. The responsibility to answer someone from where they're coming from and not just have your speech ready.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, well, this reminds me of two things. The people are acting, I guess when you get to our age or my age, and people are acting like this is all brand new stuff. It's like, oh my God, we're just discovering something. Um, but you remember the social experiment? Who was this guys years ago? I guess the 70s, the social psychology experiments. We had the one group against the other group, and the only way
Yeah.
you put the two groups together is to have a common enemy. So if you have a common enemy, then the two groups that were opposed to each other suddenly they're united against the common enemy. So that's one thing. The other thing is remember the prison studies where they had the one,
Zimbardo, yeah.
yeah, all this stuff. It's like nobody's heard of this stuff. I don't think anybody reads anymore. That's another.
That was one of the reasons I invited you here. This a comment you made about
Yeah,
that.
I mean, well, you guys always talk about this philosophical stuff, and of course, I don't know any of that stuff, and it's still true. I don't know any of this, but I do have common sense, I think, and I was actually in college. I was in the honors philosophy program, and I thought this is neat, honors philosophy. I was also in the honors psychology program, and the difference was in psychology you had to prove it, whereas philosophy just think whatever you think, and it was great.
Okay, I'm going to turn the recording off
Olivia,
for a while, see if the direction goes any different. I'll turn it back on.
okay, Olivia, did you? I have
No,
nothing.
but
I don't give a shit. I'm sorry. I
yeah,
know you're joking.
Jerry,
I don't care.
Jerry, what do you mean by shadow work?
Oh well,
Well,
shadow. Okay, let's put it this way. Most people had something happen when they were younger. Either in their childhood or whatever. Um, Whenever you're talking spirituality, people forget about the shadow side, but it's always there lurking. For example, just to give you an example, look what's happening now with Deepak Chopra's name showing up in the Epstein files.
mm,
And it's not just Deepak Chopra. any of these guys, when I was giving this talk on meditation this week, I started off by saying, look, the temptation for all these guys is all these people that are into spirituality, especially if they get a following, right away somebody seduces them and they end up having an affair. I mean, almost every spiritual teacher has ended up having an affair with one of their students. Or you have what happened with Rajneesh. You all heard of Rajneesh, and they're trying to poison people and arguing them. And that guy with the hot yoga, was his name Bikram? I mean, it just repeats over and over again. And the problem is because these people haven't worked on themselves. I mean, they think they've reached this level of love for everybody, but they haven't really worked on their own issues. They really need to work on their own issues first. So that's what I mean.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. And it happens all the time. I mean, you pick any leader, any of these spiritual guys. I remember there was a magazine that used to come out. It was called "What is Spirituality" or something. And I know that Ken Wilber was involved, but he didn't publish it. But he was in every episode. There was an article written by one of these women, and the article said it was written by a woman who said, "Look, don't feel sorry for us. We know exactly what we're doing." This is what the woman said. We know that these spiritual teachers have this need to be loved and appreciated and stuff. So we go right for that, and then we can take we can get whatever we want from them because they fall for us. So that's what I'm talking about. Now, where does
That
this?
was Enlighten Next magazine with Andrew Cohen. I think they did.
Yeah, that was the one. I
Yeah.
wish they still had it, but did you see that article? I mean, that came out.
I did. Yeah, yeah.
That was really
Right.
impressive. But the other thing is a gender thing. I mean, we're seeing this now, this whole toxic masculinity thing that's been happening. I think they had pictures of Hegseth and some other guys, and they're working out, and this whole what's masculine and what's not masculine, and all this stuff. Uh, what people need to, people need to realize that there's masculine and feminine in everybody, and instead of stressing them this way or this way, try to see it from all the sides. So I think I'm preaching to the choir here. So I don't know, but
Grace Ann has a question, Jerry.
yeah.
So when we first came here, we had a chance to do a workshop with the general and his staff. And we were planning this whole thing. And then I said, should we really be working with these people? They're the ones dropping bombs, and we're the ones holding picket signs protesting their actions. And so I called Gurudev, and he said, what a wonderful opportunity. You get to speak to these people. So you can just, you got to see all sides of a lot of things.
I had a lot of military over the years. I've had students. Well, of course, I retired from teaching in 2014, so I don't know what it's like now. But over the years, I had students, from Saudi Arabia, from China, I had a lot of military students. I had at the beginning in the 80s, I had a lot of students that were there off the GI Bill. And I was not aware, but I mean, the thing is, the military has been well, probably not anymore in the current direction, but they were into meditation, they were into all kinds of stuff. And they were very open to a lot of this stuff. For whatever reason, they were into personal development and all that kind of stuff. Um, and it used to be called the Defense Department, which is, defending yourself. Now, of course, it's the War Department, so I don't want to go there either.
So what I can't figure out is why have we kind of lost that sense of how what happens to one person affects all of us. They used to say a rising tide floats all boats. People don't say that stuff anymore. You don't hear any of the emphasis on how, that the eye for an eye makes everybody blind. All of those aphorisms that reflect how we can't be an us and them, and it just boomerangs back on you. It just doesn't work.
I don't think we lost it. I mean, I think I'm not up on the figures, but I think that the majority of people are not at the extremes either way. what happens is because of these algorithms, all you hear is the extremes. Most people aren't at the extremes. And, they're somewhere in the middle. I mean, I think, people on both sides pushed it so far that all you have is the reaction to the other side. And that's one reason why nobody's listening. And the only way, maybe you need an outside enemy. Maybe that's why they want to, all of a sudden Trump wants to release the stuff on UFOs. Because you remember that movie years ago called Wag the Dog? Where it's like whenever something happens and it's threatening, it just creates something. Let's start a war somewhere. Then we can get everybody against these people, whoever they are. But it gets back to what I was talking about doing the personal work. I mean, a lot of the times, all this anger and stuff is really coming from misdirection inside yourself. So instead of being so angry at these people, maybe it's better to take a look inside and where's this anger coming from?
Mhm.
Betty, I see you have a question, if that's okay, Jerry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Did you say Sabine or is it my turn?
It
I
is
got
your
lost.
turn, Betty. Go for it.
Okay. All right. Jerry, you're inspiring me with this shadow idea and the work we've got to do. I have this nagging feeling. I'm watching Americans from across the ocean. Helps a lot. And I really feel like the work we could have, should have, would have been doing started this is going to be very political, but in the 80s, where we should have been shocked and pushing back when money and corporations started having their importance because we were leaving too many people out. And years have gone by. We've gotten used to all of these aggressions abroad. We've sent our young boys, the rich, powerful people who've gained from wars. We're not the ones being sent to fight. But now we're talking about from the 80s until now, half a century of not doing the work, of not doing the work. And I like to put it that my symbolic meaning at the beginning was all of those air controllers who were simply trying to get better pay. Most Americans I talked to felt like that they were simply disruptive and that Ronald Reagan had restored order, and then planes could run and all of this. So the work that we haven't done, I think, got turned around from the fact that we were all getting richer. If we were fairly well to do, we were getting wealthy. If we were middle class, we saw ourselves more solidly upper middle class. I think at every level we got sidetracked. That's the word I was looking for. Sidetracked from doing the work. But I'm inspired by what you say about doing the work. It's just that if so many years have gone on and we've gotten complacent about doing the work, well, of course, we're all going to hit on each other. I love it what Grace Ann said about we're always in conflict. But now that conflict has become not deadly. Here in France, it's become deadly. An hour down the road, a guy got killed by the far left wing because he was far right wing. And the American ambassador has complained that France now is too far left because the far right guy got killed. But all of that is to say, we could be in quiet conflict and talking and doing what Henry Savall and Bakhtin had talked about, except that we are so dug in. And 50 years is a lot of time not to do the work. I guess I'm going into a rant now, but I love this doing the work. I'm going to think about it.
I think it's never too late to start doing the work. And
Okay.
if there's any kind of positive things to this, it's like, what do they say in addiction? You have to hit the bottom before you start to go, right? And maybe that's
Great.
what's happening. Maybe,
Yeah.
But it was never true that everybody was getting rich. There were always the poor who were getting poorer and poorer. There was only one candidate that ever talked about the poor. I forget the guy's name, but then he had an affair, and so that threw him out. Remember that guy?
Yeah.
What was the guy's name?
Was it Rice? What was his name?
Wasn't right. I don't know.
Something
There was
Rice.
one candidate years ago that talked about helping the poor. They never mentioned the poor. They only talk about the middle class. The poor.
Yeah. And we all
Nobody
put up
talks
with
about
it.
Yeah, right.
That was, well, Ralph Nader was a guy who was talking about all of the business problems. We were not a free market society, and he was explaining why. Unfortunately, I'd like to what Olivia wants to say, but unfortunately, I have to think about it some more. What you said, never too late. That's going to be my thought for the week. Thank
I
you.
remember the guy's name was Edwards, wasn't it Edwards? I think it was Edwards.
Oh,
Yeah.
And he was
John.
really good. Yeah, John Edwards. And so, okay, so he had an affair. So what? I mean, well, turns out all these guys had affairs. So
I don't think it's
Mhm.
ever what they say it is, to be honest.
Yeah.
go ahead, Olivia. We'll be good.
Go ahead, Olivia.
You
Yeah,
might want to pause the recording. I don't know. But to
a baby starts being concerned just about itself. Then as you get older, then you're more concerned with your family unit. Then you get a little older and you get more concerned. And so we all start off at that lower level. I shouldn't even call it, if you call it lower level, you sound judgmental. But I mean, everybody starts there, ends up somewhere. And the way you end up somewhere is because you want to. No one can make you, no one's going to make you a higher level. And so you can preach all you want about how we should all love each other and whatever, but people are at where they're at, and you have to accept them where they're at. First of all, they can't help being where they're at. They are where they're at, and maybe they can change, but you can't change them. But we should have some respect for Maslow and don't trash him. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, Jerry.
So I hope you guys found this useful.
We did. Paul, you've been pretty quiet. Did you want to add anything in?
As usual, I could go on for at least 2 hours, but that would be not good. It's because what we started off with, I don't know if we started off with it, but there was something about listening. If we talk about Maslow, the starting point here, Maslow, hierarchy of needs. If I ask a simple question, okay, here we got this scheme put together by Maslow. How does listening fit in with, coordinate with, have any association with his wonderful system? And I don't have an answer because I have to keep listening, because there isn't a neat and tidy answer that fits inside some box. The trouble or the virtue of believing process is what we are all about, renders impossible if we say we are always a work in progress. Here we are, everybody here. This is it. It's right now. It's not going to start tomorrow. The work in progress is all of us right here and right now.
Yeah.
And to the extent that we exemplify the uncertainty that is part of living in the now, that's one of the best things we can do for others. Sabine, you were concerned, and I am too, about Jerry's statement. It's hard for a person on level 1 to relate to a person on level 2 and level 3. And I go, okay, I will take that. I heard this. Oh, I'm a level 1 and can't relate to the person on level 3 or here. But that's not an answer. I can have the idea that people are on different levels. I can have the idea that if you're on 1, you cannot hear a person on another level.
Well,
but if you listen, can I go back to pop music? That's what I got really excited about. Randy Newman and Hair and Forrest Gump and all those voices of the 60s who had a lot to say that was very to me valuable and hasn't gone away. But I digress. I need to be quiet.
It's not like you can't hear it. It's what you're hearing. You're filtering through whatever. Like I I can hear you, and then I take what you're saying and I filter it through my own wherever I'm at. Or I could choose not to listen altogether, which is what's happening now. No one's listening. It's like somebody from the other side. They're like da, 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 whatever. How do you say Jewish thing? Da, 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 da. You know, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I only want to hear what I want to hear. And this is what's happening. People just want to hear what they want to hear.
But when you say a sentence, I want to hear, fill in the blank. Another sentence, I want to listen, fill in the blank.
Yep, yep,
Those are two different thoughts.
yep.
I want to hear X is something rather different from I want to listen to
Yeah, you're right.
X.
Yeah, because listening. Well, look, tomorrow night, or I guess it's tonight, is the State of the Union. And at least half of the people aren't even going to bother to show up to hear it.
My wife, our conversation, my wife said, there's no way in hell that I'm going to listen to him for any time whatsoever. I refuse to listen to him.
So where does it get? If you refuse to listen, then you get nowhere. I mean, you know,
Well,
this is no.
but one of the other things that went on is the people referred to, I'm reading into you, Olivia, forgive me. The people who are hell-bent on manipulating misinformation, one of my favorite words from back then and from my career teaching at the Defense Language Institute was desinformatia. We need to fill the air with bullshit, because when the air is filled with bullshit, nobody is going to want to listen, because all they are hearing is turbid, turgid, negative, awful dreck. So a person thinking about the State of the Union, wonderful thing, the State of the Union, what a wonderful philosophical phrase. A man is going to stand up and tell us like it is. And we know that we're not going to hear, I am convinced he isn't going to say one word, but here's my bias. I am convinced before I tune in that he isn't going to say one thing that is true. I know that I'm wrong when I make this statement. Trump, from the beginning of his speech tonight until he ends, is not going to say anything but lies. I say this as an article of belief, but I don't really believe it. If I listen to him for 2 hours or however long he talks, there will be truth spoken. I can make that assertion blindly and say, well, I'm a human being, the world is logical. No human being can talk for an hour and do nothing but lie. So will he say something true? Yes, he will. But my past experience is...
just to know that it's tonight, the speech, if you do want to see it.
Well, I was saying, even a broken clock is right once an hour or something.
Yeah. So here we are, a dilemma. Here I am faced with a choice. Do I listen or do I not listen? If I listen, does that mean I'm open-minded and thoughtful and...
Well, here's the other thing, Deb. If you listen or you don't listen, what difference is it going to make?
Good. Say that again. Say that again, Jerry. That was really...
Trump is the president for the next 3 years, and you can hate him all you want. He's still the president, unless he gets impeached, which won't happen. And so, I mean, that's what I tell my friends on both sides. Why get all upset about this? It's not real. I mean, you're just upsetting yourself, making yourself sick. It's not changing anything. You want to change something, either change yourself or go out and vote or something, or run for office. Otherwise, you can put all you want on social media and you can complain and you can make yourself sick. And so what? Nothing's changing. Grace Sanders had her hand up for a while. I don't know.
But Jerry, I'm sorry, we're going down that path, which I apologize that we are, and tell me to stop. Having seen with my eyes two people being murdered.
Yeah, I know.
Click.
Yeah.
Now, are you and I, or everybody here, are we going to agree that we saw, pardon me, is that you can tune in and you can watch two people being murdered? That's a statement I'm making. Am I uttering a truth when I say two people were murdered in cold blood by men representing the US government? True or false? If I say true, am I supposed to go, fact, nothing is changeable. I'm powerless to cause any cessation of this.
No, that's not my point is, well, remember the serenity prayer, right? That
Yeah,
if you do something about it,
yes, thank you. Another wonderful thing from the 60s. I have it pasted, the prayer of St. Francis and all of the council.
My wife used to hate the serenity prayer, and she died 6 years ago. But and why did
Sorry about
what's
your wife.
part of the reason she died? Because she got all upset and internalizing herself and more upset, and she ends up getting, she ends up. That's the trouble. You're going to get all upset about it. It's not helping anybody. We're not changing the world by making ourselves sick.
No, the true statement. My own son has been through, pardon me, boy, my own son has been through 12 years of a toxic marriage.
Yeah.
He had to extract himself from that situation. He kept not extracting himself from the situation because
I just forgot to take my hand down.
Oh, so Grace Ann has nothing to say. And
Well, in that case, Paul, I pray for your son, and I'm sorry that that's happened. But
I would like to add one thing. I mean, these things are all choice points. Anytime something like this happens, there's an opportunity to do something or not do something. So it's a choice point that comes up. But sometimes there's a choice point, but you might not feel that it's there. So in order to make the choice, you have to feel that there's a choice, and then maybe you can change it. And I think the main thing we got to do is stop being so hard on ourselves. Don't be so hard on ourselves. Don't beat up on ourselves, and don't beat. I mean, a little kindness, a little, understanding. And I'm not saying feel, like sorry for people who disagree with you. Just try to understand where they're coming from. I mean, I spent a year and a half working in a prison as a prison psychologist. So everybody who worked there, in their minds, they were all innocent. I mean, I never met a single person that's kept me off a jury since then, but I never met a single person in jail who didn't think they were innocent because in their minds, what they did made sense. And I've always felt that, everybody's doing the best they can. If they could do any better, they do it. So instead of attacking somebody from where they're at, just try to understand where they're at, show them a little compassion, and maybe they'll, and whether or not they change is up to them. Is this making any sense?
my wife and I have been pedaling hard to not diss our daughter-in-law.
Yeah, well. And I mean, it's okay to be angry, and it just doesn't do any good. I mean, being angry just makes you sick. I mean,
And we have some understanding of why she is the way she is because of where she came from and what she went through in her childhood.
Yeah, well, and we all have that kind of childhood trauma.
I will have a comment now. David and I were talking to a woman who told us that when her husband was very ill, he was still smoking and it was affecting his health. And so she decided that nothing that she could do was going to influence his behavior. So she prayed about it. and he decided on his own to quit smoking, and he did.
There
So,
you go. Yeah.
I think people find it easier to change when we're giving them affection and love instead of criticism.
Yeah.
Mhm. Could I have that in writing, Grace Ann?
Betty, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I'm putting together what Grace Ann just said and what Jerry said before that about compassion and also not harcèlement, not treating people badly or trying to make them change. What I feel like today that our young people are not getting very much of is examples from all of us of compassion. And I'm wondering what's going to happen when an entire generation sees all of this rage that we know is also coming from the algorithms on social media, but because we also, as adults, haven't addressed our conflicts very well. I think that the compassion part, according to Scott Galloway, a big problem. I don't know if you've read his book or heard about it, about struggling young men. But he
Oh, yeah.
said the fact that they have pressure on them from early, at an early age, to act tough and to not share with people their doubts and to actually treat their friends as if they don't care. That it's the care that's got to not come out. Whereas women, when they do that, are just called weak. What is that going to do to the young generation?
Well, and this stuff has been around for a long. I mean, the studies showed, and people don't like to remember this stuff, but I mean, the studies long ago showed that little boys are different than little girls. Little
Yeah.
boys are always competing with each other, and little girls are always having tea parties. And that's
Yeah.
been true, and that's just been true. But it doesn't mean that men aren't capable of, well, I get it all the time because anytime I do any spiritual thing, there's 99 women and one guy. And the
Yeah.
one guy thinks, "Oh, what am I, gay or something?" Although,
Mm.
if the guy is straight, he's lucky. He's got 99 women there, and it's like, the guy in
Yeah.
the ballet
Mm.
class. But I mean, it's not that men aren't capable of this, but the other thing is true too. The whole way through when I was teaching, the guys in my class, like diversity class and stuff, would go, "Well, why are they dumping on me? What did I do?" Because for starting in the
Mm.
80s and up until still recently, it's like attacking the male, like, and a 20-year-old, why are you attacking the 20-year-old? He hasn't done anything, but it's like the male dominance here and the male dominance here and mansplaining this and mansplaining. And it led to, I think that's what led to this overreaction now from the other side, like doing away with DEI altogether. You mentioned that Galloway. I saw this too. And a lot of men are feeling inadequate. They don't even bother to go out on dates anymore. They're afraid to approach women. I mean, and there's a lot of women that don't want to have anything to do with men. And I mean, it's understandable because a lot of men are jerks. But rather than just calling the guys jerks, we need to have ways for the two to talk to each other and stop like making assumptions.
Jerry, we're approaching the end of the time period. I'm going to ask everybody to make a final comment, and I'll come back to you, Jerry, for the last word. But Olivia, I saw your hand up. Would you like to start it off?
Sure. Just thank you for today and appreciate the open dialogue. And I do invite people to listen to both sides, especially if there's one person you really dislike, you might want to hear what he has to say. And I just appreciate and love all of you. Thank you.
Mm.
Oh, and next on my screen is Betty. You want to go next, Betty?
Yeah, I want to express my appreciation for Jerry because he's not a PowerPoint person and he found himself in this situation. He doesn't know all of us very well. So I think you did a great job. And I know this is prolonging the discussion a bit, but how does co-pilot work?
I don't know, but it's amazing.
No, but I mean, I've never used Copilot
I
at all.
use it all the time. It's pretty easy.
So
I mean,
what
it's
You
do?
have to have
Throw out-
Microsoft.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
Microsoft. If you have
Microsoft,
Microsoft, you usually have Copilot. Okay,
Yeah,
let's
well,
go.
I just want to say, I think that you should be a PowerPoint talker. Yeah. Okay.
I
Did good, Jerry. Did good. Sabine, would you go next?
Yes, thank you. I really appreciated the discussion. It gave me a lot to think about. I feel, the listening and the compassion, get everything a little more softness, and as Jerry said, with ourselves too. And also, I appreciated all of this. And now I have to admit, I'm not familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of need. All I've done is I've heard of it, but I'm going to look it up. Thank you.
And Paul, go ahead.
I really appreciate, Jerry, everything that went on here because you were a bit prickly. You weren't the person who I hoped you were going to be. You turned out to be somebody different, and yet you are the person I'm sorry. But the point of all of these sessions for me, and I'll say it again, the way in which what goes on in this room is a modeling and a process that I want to get better at doing or being. And I'm helped enormously by it. Silly footnote, I'm going to look up Randy Newman and a bunch of other music that it sustains me. Aho.
And Grace Ann.
Okay, now I'm unmuted. Sorry, I had trouble logging in. I had to change my password about 8 times before it would let me get onto this Zoom call. But thank you, Jerry, for coming. And I think life is so interesting, isn't it? It's like to remember we knew each other when were we graduates or still doctoral students? We used to see each other at the Eastern Academy.
yeah.
Who would have predicted that we end up crossing paths so many times over the years and being such good friends? It's wonderful. And I am thinking of a journalist that I knew some years back who told me that, and this was more than 10 years ago, whatever the last conflict was and people were in opposition over, he said he made it a point to identify people that he thought were most opposite himself. And then he would make a point of trying to get to know them.
Mhm.
And he said every single time, it turned out they were nice people and he liked them. So the reality is we have a lot more in common than what's dividing us.
And I'll take this opportunity to thank you, Jerry, for coming and spending an hour and a half with us, and appreciate it. This video will go up. A lot of other people want to see it, and Glenn Perry will be our guest next week. He's written a book on love and spirituality, and so hope you all tune into that. And Jerry, I want you to just have the last word, and thank you again.
Well, I hope to make as many of these as I can. Although, again, I don't know the philosophy behind most of it, but I don't think it matters. So, also, I appreciated everybody's. Well, thank you for the kind words, and y'all like really interesting. I'd like to get to know all of you better, and I guess sticking with the music for a minute. Music. I agree with Paul. Music has gotten me through all these years. I mean, it's if it wasn't for music, I don't think I'd have made it through because I didn't start meditating until 1980. I went all the way through college in the music room at Temple University because I just couldn't sit in a quiet room. But now that I'm enlightened, of course, everything is different. So And I want to thank David for
Thank you. I'm going to just say thank you from Enthinkment Circle for being here, and you're welcome any Tuesday.